You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 203, When All the Signs Point to Your Ex. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, Breakup Coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, my beautiful brave hearts. How is everyone doing? I'm super excited today. We have an amazing guest, Caitlyn, and I'm really excited to chat with her. Honestly, Caitlyn, I feel like you were such a great cheerleader throughout the program. Like, one of my favorite things about you was how integrated into the community you were, and uplifting and helpful, and you were just such an asset to the actual Get Over Your Ex program and the community itself. So I just want to say thank you, because that was amazing. I don't think I've actually ever stated that out loud to you yet. But then secondly, I'm very excited for you to come on and share your journey, because I just know that there's going to be so many individuals who really resonate with a lot of the things that you struggled with. And it's going to be super helpful hearing how you overcame them. So thank you so much for your time. And thanks for coming on. If you want to just go ahead and share a little bit about yourself and get everyone kind of acquainted with you.
Sure. Well, I loved the community and I loved being a little cheerleader in the community. But so for my breakup, it was actually the second breakup with this person. We had broken up the first time in 2021 because he just couldn't commit to me after, 6 months of dating exclusively. And I really needed that commitment and voiced that, but he just wasn't quote unquote sure. Um, we kept running into each other during the breakup, during the breakup, like over the summer. We were broken up for 5 months. We kept running into each other on the sidewalks of New York City, which was very bizarre. And I just took that as a sign that we were supposed to be together because I'm super spiritual. And so we ended up getting back together, because I was like, let's go get a drink. And we ended up getting back together. And, the second time around, looking back, was actually worse. I wish it didn't happen. Things were the same. He wouldn't commit, but the first time we dated, he was never like mean to me. And the second time he got mean. And, I spent both times being with him, just kind of tolerating breadcrumbs and shoving myself down and just trying to be okay with what I was given, which wasn't very much. And I actually I made it my fault. I made it a me problem, that I shouldn't want what I wanted. I shouldn't need what I needed, instead of being like, oh, this person just isn't a match for me. And so the second breakup was really, really, really terrible. Um, I was so distraught. It was the worst few months of my life after that. Like, I had suicidal ideations for months. I was majorly depressed. I was having daily panic attacks. I needed to take a leave of absence from work. Like, it was the worst time of my life. And now going through the program and being over him and starting to date somebody new, I I'm actually really grateful for the breakup, even though it was terrible. I'm grateful it happened, because I think I needed that to happen in order to just completely revamp who I am as a person.
Isn't it crazy to hear you say that out loud? Have you said that
It's
out loud
wild.
yet?
Not really. I've written it, but I just yeah, it's
It's
weird.
wild. Also, so yeah, Caitlyn has a blog, and I loved watching her blog evolve over her time in the Get Over Your Ex program. So I'm definitely going to link that in the show notes for all of you who like to read blogs, because she has one that she has ongoing, and she's been pretty open about what she's been going through, and it's been so helpful. Um, okay, so let's talk about the beginning, and let's talk about what you really struggled with in the second breakup. the breakup that, was really, really, really difficult. What were the biggest things you struggled with throughout that experience?
I had so much regret for breaking up with him the first time. Because like the first breakup, he was really affected by it. He was like crying harder than I was when it happened, and was telling me how he loved me and I was his best friend, and he just wasn't sure. And like I said, he was never mean to me the first time we dated. And I saw like little glimmers of hope where he would like do something random, like one time he got me flowers. But I took that and I made it some huge thing and like ran with it because it was the best thing I'd gotten. But I just had so much regret because I was like, I wonder, like, he actually cared about me then. He cared about me then. He was trying a little bit and he loved me. Like, I felt loved sometimes from him when we were together in person, never when we were, apart. But it was so much regret. And so the what if was terrible. I just couldn't stop beating myself up for ending it when it was I thought it was good. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. But that, the regret, and then I also would say the whole we're meant to be together and we have this wild connection, the spiritual side of that was the hardest part.
Yeah, so let's talk about how you moved through that because I think both of those are things that I'm sure someone listening really resonates with. And even if it's not regret of the breakup the first time, I don't know, for myself, going through like the big breakup that I went through in 2016, I felt a lot of regret for the way that I showed up and handled situations. I was like, if I didn't react to my emotions so much, or if I was more of an adult, or if I could have like handled myself better, then maybe he wouldn't have broken up with me. And if I could have just done like even one of the really big blow ups better, maybe we would still be together. So, how did you overcome the regret?
Um, I will say before I say how I overcame it, I also had a lot of regrets for how I showed up. Um, I used to, I'm a recovering anxiously attached person. And I used to display a lot of codependent tendencies, and that definitely was the case with him. He was exceptionally avoidant. So anytime that I got anxious and tried to come closer to him, he would just get further and further away, and like the classic and anxious avoidant cycle. So I also had a lot of regret for that, thinking I wish I had, done more work on myself before meeting him, then maybe it would have worked out. But for the regret, I remember you saying, and on a call, you were like, you know, if you made a mistake, like, don't you think like God or the universe would be able to fix it? And I was like, yeah, like obviously. And so while I did have regret, I was like, you know what? Like, it was supposed to happen that way. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. Like, it would have been fixed. So that regret kind of went away with that because my mindset was it was inevitable. Like it was going to happen as it did happen. And even if for some unknown reason I was able to like sneak around the universe and make a mistake, it would be rectified. Like I don't have to worry about it. But the regret went away with that realization that it's,
Isn't it
something
crazy?
outside of me actually.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I love
Yeah.
that because I went
Yeah.
and saw the movie. I think it was called Jesus Revelation or Revolution or something like that. And I'm not a religious person. I don't remember. I think my dad was in town and he was wanting to see it, and it seemed really hippy dippy. And I was like, okay, I can handle this. And so
Mhm.
we go to this thing, and one of the lines in that movie that just like hit home for me was, "Don't be so foolish to believe God can't work through your failures." And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, snap. Like
Yeah.
I can fail
Yeah.
all I need to because of course the universe works through that. Like the universe can't, like I don't believe that the universe makes mistakes.
Mhm.
So clearly all of this is happening the way that it wants it to, and the things are unfolding the way that they need to. So that's a good one. I
Yeah.
like that. Well,
Yeah. I think that's what you said to me, that line from the movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and speaking about spirituality, you said that that was the second thing that you really struggled with was believing that you two were meant to be together, right? That,
Hmm.
spirit, God, universe was maybe like what, giving you signs or something? Can you explain that piece and like what you did to overcome that?
Yeah, so that was wild. So like I said, we just kept running into each other and like we work at the same place. But we both work at the same hospital, but it's a very big hospital, so we never saw each other. We literally both times we were dating, we never ran into each other once. And then the first breakup, we ran into each other like probably once every 3 to 4 weeks. Sometimes even, shorter periods of time between. And I took that as a sign. Like we're running into each other like on the street, not even like at the hospital. We're seeing each other. And then the kicker, like I was on the phone with my sister and I was talking to her, about how I missed him, how I wondered if we were going to get back together or if I should like pursue dating other people. And I said, I just need a sign. Like I was seeing like angel numbers and I was like, I need a sign me your sign. Like I need like something huge. And I kid you not, I said that. And less than 30 seconds later, this man, my ex, walks out of CVS and is in front of me on the sidewalk. And I was like, what? And so then I got it in my head, like, yeah, for sure. Like we're meant to be together because obviously all the signs I'm seeing and the fact that I said, I just need a sign, and he was in front of my face, that was that. Of course, now I'm like, maybe it was a sign that, like, he wasn't for you. Like, just because he ended up in front of you doesn't mean that it was a sign that you wanted, you know?
Yeah, it's
And
interesting.
yeah.
I feel
Hmm.
like with
And
signs, no, go ahead. Say it. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think there might be a delay or something.
no, you're good. You're good. Um, So yeah, so the signs thing, and what also helped with that, the spiritual part was the same thing that helped with the regret. Like the universe can fix it if you somehow messed up, and also like who am I to think that I know better than the universe or God or whatever higher power? Yeah.
That's a good one too, of just like, who am I to know better? And if
Yeah,
I made a
like who
mistake,
do I
it's
think I
gonna get
am?
fixed. Yeah, so
Exactly.
good. So good. Signs are so funny. And I think I remember sending you a meme or something. Like I
Oh
saw
my
a meme
God.
or something on Instagram and it was like one of those things like, I need a sign your sign. And like literally in the wind, like a sign blows and it's a woman in the face or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. That was like exactly my experience. Like I just kept seeing things and thinking they were a certain sign. And maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but I know that, I'm right where I'm supposed to be right now. That things
Yeah.
are the way they're supposed to be.
Right. I'm right where I'm supposed to be right now. That's beautiful. I love that, saying. I think it's also what's so fascinating about all of this to me is when brave hearts are like, I'm meant to be with this person. And I'm like, if you really believed that, even if you weren't together, you wouldn't be concerned because you'd be feeling calm because you know it's supposed to work out. So it's
Hmm.
not even like that to me that's the problem. It's like the doubt of that happening or like what's going to happen if we aren't together and we're meant to be. And that's where I'm like, you are literally trying to defy God or a higher power or the universe. And I just,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that you brought that up because I think it happens more often and then people are too embarrassed to even bring that up or say that that's even like
Hmm.
a thing.
Yeah. And I like right now it's like I'm just kind of like like I said, like I know I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the circumstances I'm supposed to be in. I'm doing the things I'm supposed to be doing. And like I don't know what the future holds. I'm just kind of like along, I don't want to say along for the ride, because that makes it seem like I don't have any autonomy, but I'm just like here for what life has to offer. If something's supposed to happen, it will happen, but if it's not going to.
Right. It's just pure surrender is what you're kind of living in right now.
Hmm.
I love that.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
tell me, what were some of your biggest turning points in the program and in your just breakup heartbreak journey?
I think I think the major one was breaking that connection that I felt with him. I felt for months like I could feel his energy around me. And I think I did. Like I could really feel, but I think that I made it mean it was two-sided, but it probably was just something that I felt. But I think just breaking that was the biggest thing that helped. And the whole, the the trusting the universe, trusting the timing, and also I remember a coaching session where you talked about like I've made that connection. Like it was my thoughts that made that connection. It wasn't like something, you know, divine. Like I made the connection. And so maybe it was just me. And because I made that connection with him, like one, I could end that. And two, I can make it with somebody else. And so I
So
think,
exciting.
yeah, I think it was that, like when I was like, maybe what I thought was happening between the two of us wasn't happening at all. Like maybe I, I don't know, like I was gaslighting myself into thinking
Mm,
we had such an amazing connection. That doesn't necessarily, my experience doesn't necessarily mean that he experienced the same thing.
yeah. And I feel
Hmm.
like what's really empowering about seeing that is that you can remember that you were in the driver's seat when the connection was being made because many people feel like the connection or the chemistry is something that just happens to you
Hmm.
as if your ex brings something to the table that no one else can bring to create and cultivate that connection. And what I want to offer and invite Bravehearts to look at is that connection and chemistry is a feeling experience. And we create that through our thinking. So the thoughts that you have when you're with your ex or when you were with your ex were creating a feeling of like openness. And when you're open and you feel connected and you feel chemistry, your actions then are to be vulnerable and to listen and to, they cultivate even more of a connection with the other person versus
Yeah.
what I see a lot of times is, someone going on a date and then being like, while they're on the date, they're telling themselves, this isn't as good as it was with my ex, which then immediately puts them in a feeling of disappointed or discouraged. And then how do you show up when you feel that way? You start to disconnect, you start to like collapse within yourself, you isolate, you hide, you aren't open, you don't listen, you're constantly thinking about your ex while they're talking, right? And
Hmm.
then that of course wouldn't create a connection. Now, I do want to say that, of course, there are specific humans who have certain qualities that make it easier for you to believe the thoughts that create openness for you and connection and chemistry. And we don't need to like negate those or dismiss that, but we can build connection with anything. And that's why I have connection with things that aren't even living, right? Like I have
Hmm.
connections with my crystals. I have connections with my dog, and I don't know what she's saying, but I pretend like I do, right? And we have
Yeah.
connections with things that aren't even like alive or living technically. And that's because it's created in our mind and then a body experience. So I think that that's beautiful just to see and not from a place of like, oh, I felt like I gaslit myself, but just
Hmm.
recognizing of like, I have this experience. It doesn't necessarily mean they had this experience. Maybe they did, and it's not isolated to my ex, right?
Right.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
all okay. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is, as you were saying that, I'm like, he didn't display anything that would make connection or chemistry easier. Like it was actually the opposite. Like it was very challenging because he was so closed off. I had to do so much work. Um, yeah, that was a real time realization for me.
That's so cool. So cool to
Yeah.
see, right? And that then helps you reduce desire, right? Like I had to
Yeah.
work really
Yeah.
hard to build connection, which that is going to be an item on the desire list that reduces desire.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing. Is there any other big turning points throughout that experience that you can think of that were really kind of like monumental for you?
I remember we had this like epically long thread of coaching in the community about how he wasn't as special as I thought he was. Like looking back, and then there was this one coaching call where I'm like, because he was a doctor, right? And I was like, there's no other doctor. My brain literally was like, there's no other doctors in New York City. He's the only one. And then I'm like, Caitlyn, you work in a building with hundreds of them every single day. Like there are so many. And also, you don't need to date a doctor. Like they're not like the end all be all. Like most of them aren't even that cool. So like it just was wild that I thought that. Like it was absolutely insane that I thought he was like some unattainable one in a million person. And I mean his traits, his specific qualities, traits, life experiences, whatever, do make him one in a million, but that doesn't mean that like he's the best of the best and the best thing I could ever possibly get. It was insane to me to realize
Right?
that.
I
Hmm.
love that. And now with all the work that you've done in terms of like dating unattached and all of that, you're really finding the qualities that are important to you. And a lot of
Hmm.
those, he didn't, it sounded like, based off of what you've told me, that he didn't even possess a lot of those qualities.
He possessed like, because right after we broke up, it was before I was even in the program. I made two notes on my phone, like one of what I didn't deserve and one what I did deserve instead. And I hadn't looked at them for a while. And then recently, when I looked at them, I was like the list of things I do deserve, which also encompass like what I want. Um, he had like, there were a lot. There were like over 50, and he legit had like less than 10. I was like, oh God. And the things that I didn't want that I listed out, which were more than 50, definitely, probably closer to 100, all of those I listed because of my experience with him. So
Wow.
all of those things he had. Um, and that's been interesting to look back on now that I'm like starting to date, the person I've been seeing. I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even look at that list for a long time. And I looked at that list the other day and I was like, oh my God, like he hits every single one of the things that I listed that I do want and do deserve. And it was kind of absolutely mind blowing because when I wrote that list, I didn't think it was possible. Like I thought this is absolutely ridiculous, Caitlyn. You're wanting too much, you're expecting too much, this will never happen. Like nobody exists who can be this for you, who is this already.
Oh my God, it's just so exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love love. I love falling in love. So fun. Um, can we talk a little bit? You were talking about dating, and reminded me. Can we talk about how you dated yourself for
Yeah.
what was it, 90
Yes.
days that you dated yourself? Like you had, because you put something in the community and it was like a
Hmm.
list of all these dates, almost like a day to day, right?
Yeah.
What was
Hmm.
that was tell everyone about this, how you came up with it, what you did, and like how they can do it themselves.
Okay, so it started, my ex and I broke up in January, the beginning of January. I like did my usual MO thing of jumping back into another, like trying to date. Like I had my first date 4 days after we broke up. And then when it became apparent that I was not ready to date other people, which happened in the like end of February, I was like, okay, I'm just like I like, and also I just didn't want to. Like I didn't have the energy. And I was like, I just need to actually stop. Like for once in my life, I need to stop. I calculated that I'd been single for a total of 6 to 9 months between the ages of 16 and 31, which is not healthy. And so I was like, I need to learn to be okay by myself. And so it started in March. And then I knew I was going to enroll in your program. So then it became like 4 months because I had like 1 month before the program started. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do dating myself the whole month leading up to the program and then the whole time in the program. And I'm super type A and I like lists and schedules. And so I scheduled out my calendar every single day off I had for something that I was going to do by myself, like for myself. And it started off with all the things I had a list on my phone of all the things that I wanted to do with my ex. He refused to do all of them or just didn't want to. So I started with those and I put all of those in my calendar. And then just would pay attention when I was out walking around Manhattan, which is what I love to do. I would see something and be like, oh, that looks interesting. Like, let me add it to my list. And so it just built that way. And I wanted to try, new things. So, like I tried an art class and I'd never done art, and that was amazing. And, I brought myself to like Broadway shows, to stand-up comedy. I took myself out to dinner twice. I did all of the Central Park self tours. What else did I do? Multiple like spa days, coffee shops, took myself to the movies. Took myself on a boat cruise around Manhattan. I was for sure the only non-tourist there. But it was so fun. And that's like just like a very like small example, but I started off like being so terrified. Like I was so self-conscious anytime I went anywhere by myself when I first started. Oh, to the botanical gardens too, and the aquarium and Coney Island. I did all the things. And I was so embarrassed. Like I thought that I stuck out like a sore thumb and everybody was just looking at me thinking, oh, that girl, like nobody likes her. Like she can't find anybody to come here with. And now, like after doing that for so long, like one, it feels so normal that I have to remind myself that I'm doing it for a reason now. And two, like I have so much fun and I like talk to random people. Like I don't care if anybody is judging me and I don't think they are because I'm having an absolute blast. And I actually have people like come up to talk to me because like I'm just having such a great time. And it was also like really empowering to do the things that my ex wouldn't do with me or to do things that reminded me of him that I was terrified to do. And I put those things that I thought were going to be triggering, I put them entirely at the end. And so I just did them like 3 weeks ago and the one was going and like sitting down and having a drink. I stopped drinking alcohol too because it was making me sad after my breakup. So I had like a Diet Coke and French fries at the bar where we had our very first date. And for like a year and a half, like I couldn't, well, not a year and a half, for since our first breakup, I wasn't able to walk past that restaurant. Like I wasn't able to. Like I went around it because I would just cry. And going there was amazing. And then one of the last things I did was I walked the Brooklyn Bridge. And that was also really empowering because he moved to Brooklyn. And so I associated Brooklyn with him. And so I also avoided Brooklyn for many, many months. And I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm taking Brooklyn back. Like, I'm walking the Brooklyn Bridge. And I did it. And I was like, and then oh my God, Dorothy, I don't think I told you this. I get on the subway after walking the Brooklyn Bridge, like come back home, and I'm running to catch the train. I run onto the train. It was just about to take off. I go and look for a seat. And when I look down at the seat, his name is etched in the seat. I know. I know.
Oh
And
my God.
Dorothy, I sat on that so hard. I was just like, I was
They
like,
were
this is
like, you
my seat.
are my seat.
Uh-huh. Yep. It's hilarious. It was hilarious. It was so good.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I just got chills though.
Yeah.
Like that was phenomenal. And to watch your experience unfold of that, it was so cool.
Hmm.
For anyone who's ever thinking about joining the Get Over Your Ex program, we log everything in there. So anyone who ever joins will literally be able to search Caitlyn in our system and you will literally find her list of all of her dates, and it's going to be epic. I feel like it's going to be like a monument within the program at this point. And it was just so fun because every week when we do celebrating wins and giveaways and stuff, I always was just looking forward to seeing your collage of photos of all the different dates that you did with yourself and things that you
Yeah.
experienced. And oh, it was just so cool. You were so great at that. It was absolutely amazing. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Hmm. Of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
So, what would you tell the version of you who was really in the thick of it? So, thinking about someone who is in the second breakup. Actually, you know
Hmm.
what might be fun is thinking about like, what would you tell the version of you who was in the first breakup? And what would you tell the version of you who was in the second breakup?
The version of me in the first breakup, I would say, don't take all the signs that you see, meaning like you're supposed to get back together. And also like just don't get back together. Like when there's some quote, I think, like when somebody shows you who they are, like believe them the first time or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say for the second breakup that like it's not what I thought it was. So I thought that I had lost my one and only person, that I would never be happy again, that like I had made the biggest mistake. It was all my fault. And it was because I messed up so many times that I lost my person. And that he was like the best I could do. And that's just hilarious now, because it's so not true. Um, and that like it would all be okay, and that actually like at the end of the program I'd be like better than I ever have been. Like I've never been in this great of a state, and I wrote some, what did I say in my blog that you really liked recently?
It was
It
so good.
was
I'm
like
gonna look it up because
I
I
think
texted it to you.
yeah, it was good, but like that. Like I didn't believe that I would actually be okay, and it's like turns out I'm more than okay.
Yeah, you said going through that heartbreak was the worst experience of my life, but it led me to the best place I've ever been.
Yeah. Yep.
Such a good
That's
quote. Can we
yep.
all hear it again? I'm going to say it again. Going through that heartbreak was the worst experience of my life, but it led me to the best place I've ever been.
Hmm.
That's how I felt. Like over like
Yeah.
my big breakup in 2016, like I just can't imagine not having that in my life. And
Hmm.
uh, it led me to,
Yeah.
again, like the best place I've ever been.
Yeah. And it's like I'm a changed person, like the way I think, even like, when I was dating myself, I discovered that, who I thought I was, I actually wasn't. So my wardrobe changed. I threw away a bunch of makeup because I was like, I don't even like makeup. Stopped drinking because I was like, I don't even like drinking. Um, and so my whole life has changed entirely. And, another thing I would tell myself after the second breakup was like he like wasn't the best you could do. Like everything that you were wanting and asking for wasn't absurd. You were just asking the wrong person. And, you know, somebody will treat you a million times better. And like now in the continued support, I'm getting coaching because I'm like, oh gosh, like I'm being treated so well that I feel uncomfortable because I'm used to being treated like trash for the past, year and a half. And I just never thought that would be the case for me.
Isn't it
And so
so crazy?
it's
I think there's a lot of people who would totally
it's
resonate with that.
nuts.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
she's talking about when you graduate the Get Over Your Ex program, you're invited to do continued support, which is just like a month-to-month subscription-based thing where you get to continue coaching and working on other areas of your life. So she was working on dating and being unattached while dating. And so I don't know, can I share that you just recently went on a date?
Yeah, sure. He's
Yeah, so
probably going to listen to this. So
so,
hi.
so fun. So fun. Hello, new date. We love you. We think you're great. Um, but yeah, so Caitlyn just went on a date and it was just so fascinating that her default mindset or her default thoughts led her to feeling uncomfortable because she was thinking thoughts that just were happening by default because she wasn't used to being treated well. And I'm like, this is bare minimum. Like,
Mhm.
we want you to raise, it's almost, I was talking when I was coaching you the other day, it's almost like a set point. And we talk about this a lot in manifestation of money. You'll hear people talk about like, oh, you're used to your bank account being at, $500. So if you were to win the lottery and you have this huge lump sum come in and your bank account is all of a sudden this like crazy number that you're not used to seeing in there, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You might even get scared and start participating in behaviors that elicit scared, and you spend it all because you're not used to it. And so it's learning how to have a certain set point and learning to accept and receive these amazing behaviors without making them a problem and not like reacting to that discomfort of, this is something new and it feels new. I was literally, I don't know where this was. Maybe you even told me this or if it was on Instagram, but someone was mentioning something about how you the subconscious mind and your nervous system will accept a familiar hell over a uncomfortable heaven. I think
Mhm.
that must be like an Instagram thing happening. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, makes so much sense,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it would rather have the familiar, even if it's like the worst thing ever, than, someone treating you so well and it's just not familiar to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like even though the thing that I knew like sucked, it's like I knew it. And something that's unknown is really scary. Even when the unknown so far has been like really great.
Right?
Yeah.
So good. I'm excited to continue working on that with you. It's been super fun watching that all unfold.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm excited too. Really, really excited.
Yay. All right. Is there anything else you would love to share with the brave hearts listening in?
Um, I don't I can't think of anything besides like what we just talked about. Like, and maybe I'll put in a little spiritual thing. Like everything that you are specifically going through right now, even if it really sucks and you don't understand why it's happening, like I truly believe, and maybe other brave hearts do also, that it's all happening for a reason. And like one day you'll understand that reason. It's not a mistake. And, it'll probably, not probably, it'll definitely change your life. Like you can take, what do you say, turn your heartbreak into happy? Like you can take like the worst moment of your life and use that to build yourself back up, like the image of like a house that's like been, you know, blown away by a tornado or hurricane, like that's your breakup. And like you can take the pieces of that house and then add some more that you have collected and you build a better house than you had before, like it sucks right now, but it's not always going to be this way. And you might just surprise yourself to see who you are and what you experience on the other side.
Beautiful. Couldn't have said it any better. I love the house analogy, 110%. Yeah, it's turning your heartbreak into happy and your pain into power, I think is what I
Yes.
say. Right. And I like the word power because this is a moment that can be unbelievably powerful for you. This is your moment to take back that power, to take back that control and bring it home to yourself and be like, no matter what, I'm about to have the most epic comeback. The biggest Taylor Swift moment we've had yet.
Yes.
And everyone's going to be turning their head being like, what are you having? I'd like to have whatever you're having. Right. And I think breakups are like the best moment to do that. It's your best moment to shine. Everything you wanted with your ex does not require the ex who left. You can go out and create that no matter what. And not only are you going to create it, you're going to make it better. Period.
Yep. For sure.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Caitlyn. I know the Bravehearts listening
you.
in are so grateful for your time and for being so vulnerable and sharing so openly about your experience. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Is there actually, and I'm going to, like I said before, I'm going to link her blog in the show notes because it's so great. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
I don't think so.
Okay, awesome.
So. My blog says it all.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. So fun.
If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.